I didn't put my name on the badge. That was the only safety net I had left. No one here should have known who I was. I was supposed to be invisible, a silent +1 for the VP of Digital Security, tucked in a navy suit borrowed from my brother-in-law, sleeves still stitched from his last dry cleaning. And yet she spotted me before I even made it to the buffet. I was staring at a tray of shrimp skewers, pretending not to feel like my lungs had just folded in on themselves, when I heard the glass hit the floor. I didn't have to turn around. I knew that sound. Not the glass, the gasp. Her gasp. I'd heard it once before, on a night when everything fell apart. 3 years ago, I walked out our front door while she was in the shower. I left the ring box on the bed with a note inside it. Not the engagement ring that she sold. This was something else. A copy of the bracelet. The one she gave him. She thought I never saw it. She thought I never saw the initials. I never gave her the fight she wanted. No drama. No screaming. No ultimatums. Just silence. And the sound of the door closing. That was my exit. And now, here she was, standing across the room with mascara streaking down both cheeks, and her jaw half open like the world had just cracked under her heels. She wasn't supposed to cry. Not here. Not in front of executives. Not with cameras around. Not with her new last name and her new body and her stupid glittery dress that probably cost more than the car I drove away in. I should have looked away. Should have left before the tears came. But I didn't. I watched. Watched her press her hand against her lips like it would hold the sob inside. Watched the man next to her whisper, "Do you want me to handle this?" And watched her shake her head like her spine had turned to glass. She took one step toward me. Just one. And stopped. Because she knew. This wasn't a coincidence. I didn't come here to eat shrimp. She took one step toward me. Just one. And stopped. Because she knew. I didn't come here to eat shrimp. She didn't move again. Neither did I. We just stood there like two paintings in different frames, trapped, watching each other through glass. Her lips parted as if a word might crawl out on its own. But it didn't. Instead, her eyes darted to the floor, then the bar, then the man next to her. Tall, tan, very polished. His hand was on her back now, and it made me sick. He didn't look confused. He didn't even look curious. No. His eyes locked onto me with this smug, slow-burning smirk like he already knew who I was. And worse, what I was. The discarded husband. The weak one. I clenched my fists. Not in anger. In humiliation. That same old ache started bubbling up. The one I thought I buried years ago under a fake smile and a therapist's couch. God, I should have left. But I stayed. Because 3 years ago, I gave her an out. A clean one. I vanished with no confrontation, no legal war, no social media drama. I let her keep the apartment. Let her tell people whatever version of the story she wanted. I moved out of state. Started over. Tried to forget. But now she was here. In front of me. Crumbling. And I hadn't even said a word. The man beside her, who I assumed was her new husband or flavor of the year, tilted his head and walked toward me first. Not her. Him. He had that investment banker who thinks he owns air type of energy. His handshake came out of nowhere. "Silas, right?" he said, extending his palm like we were at a networking brunch. "Heard a lot about you." Heard a lot about me? What the hell does that mean? I didn't take his hand. I couldn't. My palms were ice. My legs? Worse. I felt like I was being choked by gravity. He looked me up and down, still smirking. "Didn't expect to see you here," he added, like I was a dog who wandered into a wedding. Behind him, Marilee's lips moved, but no sound came out. So I finally spoke. "Neither did she," I said, barely loud enough to carry. He glanced over his shoulder at her, then back at me. "Well, you've certainly made an impression." I almost laughed. That's what he called this. An impression? She looked like she'd seen a ghost who brought receipts. I turned my body away, not fully, just enough to end the interaction without physically pushing him. But he kept talking. "She told me about you. About how you just left. One day? No explanation." That stopped me cold. No explanation? That's what she told him. I looked straight at her. Her eyes were full now, swimming, red, wide. She shook her head, almost imperceptibly, like she was trying to telepathically erase his words. But it was too late. "She never told you the real reason," I said, this time louder. "Did she?" His brows raised slightly. That perfect jaw clenched. "Is there a real reason?" I looked him dead in the eye. "She was engaged to both of us at the same time." Silence. Even the clinking glasses and polite conference chatter in the background seemed to pause. Her hand flew to her mouth. He turned. Her eyes welled up and overflowed. The tears she tried to hold back finally broke through, and she covered her face as if the room had caught fire. I didn't wait for the reaction. I walked straight past them, through the side hallway, past two colleagues from my company who didn't even recognize me. I didn't care. I made it to the elevator, pushed the button, and stared at my reflection in the gold paneling. And then the door opened, and I heard heels behind me. She followed. Of course she did. But I wasn't the same man she left behind. Not anymore. I wasn't the same man she left behind. Not anymore. She didn't call my name. Didn't even try. I heard the hesitant rhythm of her heels approaching, soft, off-tempo, like her feet weren't sure if they were allowed to move closer. I stood facing the elevator, watching the numbers tick down slowly from the 20th floor like some silent countdown to the moment she'd open her mouth and destroy whatever piece I had left. She stopped a few feet behind me and waited. I refused to turn around. "Silas," she finally whispered. Her voice cracked in the middle like it hadn't been used in years. I still didn't turn. Instead, I stepped into the elevator, held the door with one hand, and stared at the mirrored wall inside. "You lied to him," I said, calm, level, cruel. "You told him I just disappeared, that I ghosted you, that I abandoned the marriage." "I had to," she said softly, stepping inside with me. You didn't leave room for the truth." I let the door close. She stood on the opposite side of the elevator, hugging herself like a child in timeout. Her hair was longer than I remembered. Straighter. Not the lazy curls she used to let dry on their own while eating cereal in my t-shirts. Her makeup was flawless, except for the streaks. She looked more expensive, more polished. And yet, she was shaking like the day I told her my mother died. "I didn't come here to see you," I said, because I needed her to know that. "This wasn't about you." "Then why did you tell him?" she asked. "Why now?" "Because I'm done hiding." She winced like the words were fists. "I thought if I never saw you again," she murmured, "I could move on. But you showing up tonight. I was invited, I cut in, by a man who works under your husband. The one who used to work with me, before I left everything behind because I couldn't stomach the whispers." "You think you were the only one hurting?" she snapped suddenly, voice breaking through. "I begged you to talk to me that night. You left me a note and vanished like I didn't matter." I laughed, sharp and dry. "You begged me? That's rich. Did you beg me before or after you flew to Denver to spend that weekend with Damon and lied about it being a training seminar?" She flinched hard. "How did you know about that?" she whispered. "I always knew," I said. "I just wanted to see if you'd ever admit it. You never did. Not once." She looked down, lips trembling. "It wasn't supposed to happen like that." "No," I said. "It never is." The elevator dinged at the lobby, and for a second, neither of us moved. I should have walked out. Should have just left. But something in her eyes, some flicker of guilt or panic or something close to actual remorse, froze me. "I didn't marry him for love," she blurted. "You need to know that." I stared at her. She looked terrified of her own words. "I married him because I panicked," she said. "You were gone. Everyone thought I'd been dumped and disgraced. And he offered stability. He made it all look clean again. But it was never real. Not like it was with you." It took everything in me not to laugh in her face. "You think I care who you love now?" I asked. "After you buried me under your lies and paraded him around like he was your upgrade?" "I thought you'd moved on," she whispered. "I did," I said. "Until tonight." Then I walked out. She didn't follow. But the damage had already restarted. And what she didn't know yet was that I wasn't just passing through. I was staying. And I wasn't alone. I walked out. She didn't follow. But the damage had already restarted. I didn't go home. Not yet. Instead, I walked 2 blocks through the freezing city night and ducked into a coffee shop that was half closed, lights dimmed, jazz humming softly through dusty speakers. I ordered whatever they had left and sat in the farthest booth from the door, trying to feel something that wasn't betrayal or shame or that dumb old ache I thought I'd buried. I didn't expect her to confess that. Not about the marriage. Not that she'd admit she didn't love him. And not with that look in her eyes. That pathetic, cracked expression like she still hoped I cared. The part that scared me? For half a second, I did. For half a second, I wanted to tell her I missed her. That the nights alone weren't brave. They were just cold. But that second passed. Because I remembered what I was actually doing here. It wasn't random. It wasn't accidental. It was orchestrated. 3 months ago, I got a LinkedIn message. Of all places. From a name I hadn't seen since my wedding. Wesley Corrick, Marilee's old boss. The guy she always said was a dinosaur in a suit, who couldn't manage a department without crying in Excel. He asked to meet. Coffee. Discreet. When I showed up, he looked 30 pounds lighter and 30 years more bitter. Let me guess, I said. You found out the hard way what kind of person she really is? He just nodded, then opened his tablet and showed me everything. Email chains, phone logs, hidden accounts, internal manipulation. A long, sticky trail of corporate corruption, initiated, funded, and quietly championed by Marilee and the man she married. Turns out she wasn't just cheating on me emotionally. She'd been helping him launder favors, fake compliance scores, even bury 2 whistleblowers. One of whom was Wesley's cousin, and that cousin was now under federal indictment, while Marilee walked around in designer heels with a new last name and 0 consequences. Wesley couldn't fight them from inside the company. Too dangerous. But me? I was nobody. I was perfect. Clean record. No ties. A ghost from her past who could walk into a gala unnoticed and leave behind chaos. So I agreed to help. It started with a simple appearance. Make her panic. Throw her off. See if she cracks. Wesley's team was watching. They wanted reactions. Slips. Anything they could use to pin her name to the case. But now it wasn't just business. It felt personal again. Sitting in that booth, sipping cold coffee, I remembered every time I thought I was paranoid. Every time I caught her in a lie and let it slide. Every time she said, "You're imagining things, Silas," with that rehearsed little sigh she used like punctuation. I used to think I was the problem. That my anxiety made me impossible to live with. That my spirals were just that, mine. But no, she gaslit me for years. And now, for the first time, I had people who believed me, who saw what she really was, who were willing to burn her world down. I pulled out my phone, texted the number Wesley gave me. Phase 1 complete. She broke in front of him. Confirm if she's being followed. The reply came back less than a minute later. Confirmed. Her car left 5 minutes ago. Tracker active. We're on her. I slid the phone back into my pocket. Then I smiled, small, bitter, tired. She thought I came back for closure. But I came for truth. And I wasn't leaving until she had nothing left to hide behind. She thought I came back for closure. But I came for truth. I didn't sleep that night. I just watched the live feed. Wesley's team had installed a tracker on her car the week prior, anticipating she might run if she ever saw me. She didn't. She drove. Slowly. Aimlessly. She stopped in a parking lot outside a pharmacy, sat there for 40 minutes, and then drove again. To a hotel that wasn't hers. Not the one listed in the corporate block, not one affiliated with the event at all. A private little boutique place on the east side. No valet. No cameras in the lobby. But they didn't need cameras. They had me. And I knew her too well. The moment I saw that address on the screen, something cold clicked in my chest. That wasn't an accident. That was a retreat. That was the place she used to go when she didn't want to be found. When her old job stressed her out. When she had migraines. When she needed quiet. That was the same hotel she once claimed she stayed at after a women's conference in Seattle. That was the weekend I found the credit card charge from a steakhouse she swore she'd never heard of, 2 entrees, a bottle of wine, dessert for 2. I remembered that weekend well. It was the first time I ever wondered if I was sleeping next to a stranger. Now she was back there. After 3 years. After seeing me. After cracking in front of her husband. And it didn't feel like she was hiding. It felt like she was preparing. Around 2:13 a.m., I got the second alert. She turned off her phone. Then another ping. Her hotel room window opened. The mic caught a short, shaky voice message to someone on the other end of a burner number. I saw him. In person. I couldn't breathe. He knows. I think he knows everything. I replayed that last line. He knows everything. She said it out loud. But she didn't know how much I knew. The court filings. The bribes. The internal memo she drafted under her boss's login. The shell company tied to her new husband. The falsified expense reports that connected her to the whistleblower cover-up. Wesley had every document, time-stamped, backed up, logged across 3 servers. What he didn't have was her voice. Until now. That recording was enough. Phase 2 was greenlit. The next morning, I walked into the corporate breakfast like I belonged there. No badge. No name tag. Just a confident nod and an assistant's clipboard. No one asked questions. These kinds of events thrive on chaos disguised as networking. I spotted her across the room. Not crying now. Composed. Clean. Powerful. Too powerful. That's when I realized something was off. She wasn't panicking anymore. She was pivoting. I saw her laughing with the VP of marketing. I watched her place a subtle hand on her husband's arm like nothing had happened the night before. And then, she looked over his shoulder, directly at me, and smiled. Not the kind of smile I remembered. This was different. This was calculated. That was the moment I knew. I wasn't the only one playing a long game. She'd been preparing for this. And I'd just walked back into her world without realizing she'd been preparing a trap of her own. That was the moment I knew. I wasn't the only one playing a long game. I left the conference hall before she could reach me. That smile, that flawless mask she wore after last night's breakdown. It told me everything I didn't want to admit. I'd made my move too early. I'd underestimated her ability to adapt, and worse, to anticipate. Marilee wasn't cracking. She was recalibrating. Wesley called me the moment I stepped outside. His voice was rushed, agitated. She's pulling internal access logs. Not hers, yours. From 3 years ago. My stomach dropped. Why the hell would she dig that up now? Because she's building her defense, he replied. And she's smart enough to spin this entire thing into harassment if we're not careful. You walked into her space without credentials. You confronted her husband. You triggered her in public. If she turns this into a narrative of stalking or retaliation, we're screwed. I leaned against a lamppost outside the hotel, watching suits file past like ghosts. She's flipping the script. She already flipped it, he said. Now she's rewriting the ending. I ended the call and started walking. I didn't even know where I was going, just that I needed air. Space. I'd spent the last 3 months gathering evidence like I was preparing to deliver a final blow. But somehow, in one night, she'd maneuvered everything like a chess master 5 steps ahead. That's what terrified me. Not that she was guilty, but that she was guilty and still better at this game than I was. She always was. I thought back to the first time I caught her lying. It wasn't even a major betrayal, just a small thing. She told me she was at her sister's house when I found out she'd actually been at a gallery opening with coworkers. I asked why she lied, and she shrugged, like truth was just an optional accessory. It's not always about right or wrong, she said back then. Sometimes it's about control. And now she was proving it again. By noon, I got another ping. One of Wesley's internal sources sent over a screenshot of her email inbox. Subject line, formal misconduct inquiry, security breach suspected. She'd filed a report. Not against him. Not even against her husband. Against me. Claimed I accessed sensitive employee records illegally during my time at the company, and that my sudden reappearance was part of an orchestrated attack. The irony was infuriating. I had walked away with nothing. No lawsuit. No revenge. Just silence. And now she was painting me as a predator. I sat on a bench at the edge of the conference center, watching pigeons fight over sandwich crusts while my entire past crumbled into a weapon in her hands. Then my phone buzzed again. No message. Just a photo. No name. No caption. Just one image. It was me, from earlier that morning, standing in the coffee shop lobby across the street, talking to someone I barely remembered. And beside me, barely in the frame, a woman. Blonde. Mid-30s. Wearing a navy dress. Marilee's old assistant. The one who quit right before I left 3 years ago. The one who, if I remembered right, had been dismissed quietly after an incident involving deleted files. And now she was back. In the photo. With me. The message that followed was only 4 words long. They're watching you now. For a second, I forgot how to breathe. She wasn't just covering her tracks. She was erasing mine. She wasn't just covering her tracks. She was erasing mine. The message paralyzed me. Not because of the image. Not even the threat it implied. But because it told me something far worse. That I wasn't anonymous anymore. For 3 years, I lived like a shadow. No social media, no old contacts, barely a trace. But in one single night, she'd not only spotted me, she'd reactivated the entire ecosystem that used to orbit around us. The people who once watched from the sidelines. The ones who said nothing. They were paying attention again, and not to her. To me. I stared at the image longer than I should have. That coffee shop lobby. My awkward stance. That accidental glimpse of her old assistant, Julie. I hadn't even realized she was there. That morning was a blur. Adrenaline, nerves, regret. But there she was, clearly in frame, standing beside me with a file folder in her hand and something clenched in her expression I hadn't noticed at the time. She looked terrified, and now someone was using that moment against us. My first thought was Wesley. Maybe someone in his team had turned. Maybe someone leaked the surveillance to Marilee to save themselves. My second thought was worse. Maybe Julie was never a bystander. Maybe she was part of it all from the beginning. I called Wesley. He picked up after the second ring, voice tense, like he'd been waiting for this call. You got it too? You mean the photo? Yeah, he said. Someone's counterplaying hard. I think she pulled more than access logs. I think she found the internal server we used. I don't know how, but she's got people. I sat in silence for a moment. Then, stupidly, I asked, do you trust Julie? Wesley paused. Julie left after the original audit because she refused to falsify a compliance signature for Marilee's project. She's the one who tipped off my cousin. That's why she was forced out. Then why is someone using a photo of her with me as leverage? Because they're trying to isolate you, he said. They want to make you paranoid. Turn every ally into a question mark. Make you flinch so you move too early. Too late. I was already flinching. By nightfall, I was back in my hotel room. Lights off, blinds drawn, staring at my laptop screen like it could explain how everything had flipped so fast. And then another message. This time, not a photo. A voice memo. I hesitated. My hand hovered over the play button. I don't know what I was expecting. Maybe her voice again. Maybe some kind of trap. But it wasn't her. It was Julie. Her voice, shaking, rushed, whispered like she recorded it from inside a closet. I don't know who else to send this to. I can't talk on company lines. They're monitoring everything. It's worse than you think. It's not just Marilee and her husband. There's a third name. Check the Cayman records. 2 years ago. Same address used for both shell companies. It's connected to you, Silas. They forged your authorization. I think your name is on the original documents. If they go down, they're taking you with them. I sat back, heart thudding. They forged my name. They'd built this entire empire of lies using me as part of the foundation. That's why she was smiling. That's why she didn't break down when she saw me again. She wasn't afraid of me exposing her. She was counting on me showing up so she could blame it all on me. The clean husband. The coward who disappeared. The scapegoat no one had seen in 3 years. I wasn't just back in her life. I was about to be written into her downfall as the one who caused it all. She wasn't afraid of me exposing her. She was counting on me showing up so she could blame it all on me. I didn't run. I didn't disappear again. That's what she expected. That's what they all expected. That I'd fold under pressure, ghost like last time, bury myself under guilt that wasn't mine to carry. But this time, I didn't cave. I called Julie. She answered on the first ring. No panic now. No shaking voice. Just quiet determination. You got the memo? Yeah, I said. So they faked my signature. Tied me to the shell companies. It's worse, she said. They used your identity for account approvals. The tax records, they don't lead to her. They lead to you. My hands went cold, but I didn't break. Instead, I said, then we show them what happens when the scapegoat learns how to bite. It took 3 days. 3 long, surgical, methodical days. Julie and I met in secret, cross-checking digital trails, reconstructing every step they tried to erase. Wesley pulled his strings too. Quiet lawyers, former auditors, a retired compliance officer who'd been blacklisted for refusing to bury a report. We built the case brick by brick, while Marilee and her husband hosted luncheons and cocktail meetings like the empire wasn't already burning beneath them. And then, the break. The Cayman records Julie mentioned? They connected Marilee's husband to a third alias, a dummy officer created using his own assistant's social security number. The mistake? That assistant filed for bankruptcy last year and flagged the fraudulent activity. The feds had already opened a case. They just didn't know where to aim. Until now. With our files, they did. The raid happened fast. Headlines hit in under 12 hours. Tech exec, wife under federal investigation for financial fraud, retaliation allegations surface. No names at first. Just positions. Just hints. But the day after, I got the call. Mr. Cleary, the voice on the other end said, we've reviewed the evidence. Your name will be formally removed from all financial inquiries. You were impersonated. You're in the clear. You'll be contacted for testimony. I exhaled so hard I nearly collapsed. It was over. And not just the charges. Her. The storm cloud I'd carried for 3 years. The silence, the shame, the confusion, all of it dissolved under the weight of truth. But the moment that truly broke me came a week later. A handwritten letter. Mailed. No return address. No envelope message. Just my name in careful cursive. Inside, a single line. You were always the only thing I couldn't control. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Because now, she was the one watching the headlines, and I was the one walking forward without looking back. Julie got her job back. Wesley's cousin got his name cleared. And me? I moved to Portland. Small place. Quiet. I opened a consultancy firm, nothing fancy. But I work with honesty now. With transparency. I even started smiling again. And sometimes, when I pass by the bay window in the morning, coffee in hand, I catch my reflection. And for the first time in years, I don't look like someone who was broken. I look like someone who survived. And finally started living again.